Hi, welcome to update number 5 on the Lackawanna Cut-Off. Well, we're going to be talking about what's happening now in November 2019. Hi, I'm Chuck Walsh and I'm president of the North Jersey Rail Commuter Association. And we're here at the Paulinskill Viaduct in Haynesburg, New Jersey to give you a quick update on 3 different items. First is the stakeholders group. We'll talk about that. Talk about an article that appeared in the local press here in New Jersey over the past week. And then also we'll talk about the other videos which I've been doing over time and bring you an up to date on what's been happening with those. So first, the stakeholders meetings. There have been 2. One was in July of this year and now one on November 12th. First one was in Newton, New Jersey. The second one was over in Tannersville, Pennsylvania. It's a group which is composed of political representatives from both sides of the Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, as well as staff folks and advocates as well, such as myself. And during the most recent meeting, there were really 3 major things that were covered. And first was the Andover project, the New Jersey Transit project to Andover, and an update on that about Roosevelt Tunnel. There isn't a whole lot to report on that at this point, but the group intends to be meeting with New Jersey Transit and to certainly be able to provide us more information on what's going on with Roosevelt Tunnel in terms of that part of the project, which is really the major project, sub-project, if you will, within the bigger project, which is the opening of the line, 7.3 miles to Andover. The second, I'd say, most important thing, and that is the extension west of Andover. And the discussion that took place at the meeting this past Tuesday had to do with the engineering study, which will be completed at the end of this year. So we should have results on that. Part of that study will be looking at this bridge here, the bridge over the Delaware, and then basically the right-of-way in the 21 miles, the 21 missing miles, which we covered in part 21 of the Lackawanna Cut-Off videos. The 21 miles, the cost of reactivating that will be really the subject of that particular study, and that would open the door for final engineering and basically getting the money to rebuild the line. So that is something that we would be watching very closely, and we'll see when we get the results from that particular study. That was a $700,000, which we mentioned in a previous update, that was subject of monies that were gained by Pennsylvania. And then finally, they will be changing their name. The stakeholders group will be coming. I don't have the exact name to give you, so I won't give it to you, but you'll be seeing that particular group having a different name than just the quote-unquote stakeholders. Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing is about this article which appeared on, well, November 3rd. And you can see the viaduct here is featured prominently. It's the New Jersey section of the New York Star Ledger, but it also appeared on newjersey.com and has probably been shared all over the place. There are a few things that I just want to comment, actually 3 things, another 3. First was that the article says that the extension to Andover is 3 miles. No, it's 7.3 miles, so that's one correction there. The second thing is there's a lot of discussion by, well, at least some discussion by some folks that were quoted in the article about trail use for the bridge, because this article really concentrates on the bridge, but obviously the bridge is part of the cutoff, a major part of the cutoff. Talk about trail use. Well, trail use really has been eliminated from the actual discussion about the cutoff. Going back 25 years, the studies and all that's been done since that time, they've looked at the cutoff, the whole cutoff, as either a busway, a hiking trail, a rail line, light rail line, roadway, all the different options, and all except heavy rail, in other words, basically regular rail use, have been eliminated. So really talking about trail use is not relevant to this. So it pops up from time to time, but it's something I guess we really want to not really talk about, because it's not going to happen. So there won't be any interim trail use for the cutoff. Let's put it that way, simply put. And then finally, in this particular article, although I notice on this particular page it's not like that. It says, once a bridge for trains, the Paulinskill Viaduct is a playground for bungee jumpers and bikers. I was quoted about bungee jumping. I remember that here. I talked to the reporter about a whole bunch of other things, but none of that got into this particular article. But that one version of the story I saw online said that something to the effect that nobody knows what to do with this particular bridge. Well, that's of course absurd. Of course we know what to do with it. But I would just say that if you see the article, which once again it's been out there, there's some interesting things in here, but there's some inaccuracies, and I think that's the purpose of me bringing it up. Finally, talking about our parts, in other words, our extended videos. Part 22 was just released this past week, last couple days actually, where we interview Mr. Thomas Townsend Tabor III, and that video is posted as we speak, or not quite as we speak, but I am working on the closed captioning for that particular video, but it's out there for your purview. There actually are additional videos that are in the wings, so to speak. Part 23, where we'll be talking to John Sabatka and Bob Bars about their experience, where they actually worked on the Conrail rail train, which took up the rails from the cutoff. We'll talk about that, but we'll talk about a lot more than just that. And then 24 and 25 have also been recorded, although I'm not going to tell you what they are, and they're a little bit further out into the future. I'm not sure if I'll get to them this year, but maybe the beginning of 2020. And then there are more that are contemplated, but we'll talk about that, and I'll keep you up to date as we go along on that. So thank you for listening. This is the end of update number 5. Thanks for watching.